All right. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody. Thank you for coming in. We got a few people in the Zoom room, 27 people on in the Facebook crowd and counting. I want to thank everybody for your continued love and support and for sharing these shows. We do have a Patreon now. We're trying to gather some steam to expand. So if these shows resonate, please consider a contribution through PayPal or joining us on Patreon. And thank you for the 32 people that have joined Patreon. Let's get Judith Kusel up here. I know you guys don't want to be looking at me the whole time, so it's been a while since we talked to her, so I'm anxious to see what's going on with her since she got back from her trip. Hello.
But
Uh
yeah,
oh.
yeah.
There
Hello,
you are.
hello.
Okay.
Hello, Todd. How are you?
What's
And I'm so grateful to be here.
Yeah, I'm grateful too. I don't usually get up this early, but I always will for you. Uh,
Oh, thank
yeah,
you so
I'm
much. And hello to everybody out there. And I'm so happy that you are all joining us. And bless you and lots of love to all of you. Thank you for being here. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for showing up and all the work that you do. You uh you went on quite a little trip there, didn't you? I noticed when you went on the trip, you started to really post some stuff, and then when you got back, you were really putting out a lot of good information. I
Yeah.
mean, you always do, but you were just like, maybe I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but you were putting out more, and there's just a lot of information. I don't even know where to start. But how was your trip? How was your trip, and just a general overview of what you did?
Yeah, well, I was actually called there mainly to open up energy centers there, but also because, the book, when I was in France, Delphi always came up, whatever way I looked at it. Because in France, I connected with the ancient mystery schools there, which were held at Montsegur area, but also connected in ancient ways to something that was far more ancient. In other words, the mystery schools didn't just go back to the time of Mary Magdalene, they actually went back further than that. So they were actually one of the seven first mystery schools that were ever created. And with that, and going deeply into the history of that, and also the Mary Magdalene started to come through in a very, very powerful way, and her untold story from birth, because she was actually French, came through it, and that's all in my France book that is
Mm,
busy editing at the moment. But with that, the link to Delphi came up, and not just Delphi in that time, but also the Celtic links between the Druids and
mm,
and Delphi, because there are stories there that the people there from that part of France went to besiege Delphi, because you must remember Delphi was the oracle where everybody went to consult the oracle,
mm,
because they wanted to, because the oracle was so well known, it was like world famous. So people came from all the well-known world to consult the oracle there. And there's a story that they, because now, of course, of that, they became very wealthy, but not wealthy. It's not the original oracle which were there, which was still pure. But of course, with everything in world, things get corrupted, and so people sort of built great treasuries there. So there was a lot of gold and silver and whatever else there, and they actually laid siege on Delphi, the
mm,
Celts. And then they after 3 years they managed to defeat them, and they took the treasure back home to France. But what happened then is everybody was starting to get ill and they died. And then the Druids were consulted and they said, well, this treasure that you stole, that's where the whole problem comes in. And they said, you must take this whole treasure and put it into this lake. And they dumped the treasure into the lake, and then all the fish died, but the people then survived. So it must have had something in it that was very toxic. So all these stories came together. Also, Pythagoras, interestingly, he studied in that part of France before he went to Delphi, because, and also in Ireland. So now you get all these stories coming together, and I thought myself, okay, I'm being called to Delphi in a very great
mm,
way. And as I was called to Delphi, Egypt opened up, and I was always, okay, the two link, because I was told they linked, and that is how I then decided, okay, I'll go there. I'll do seminars in Greece, and I'll do seminars in Egypt, and I will go and do the work. But what I didn't realize is how profound that would even work with me at a very deep level, because I was going on a leap of faith like I always do. Because if I'm called, like you do, if I'm called to do something, I go and I do it, because that is the call that you need to answer. And I always trust that whatever needs to be done will come into being. It will come into form. It will materialize, because this is greater than me. I'm just the instrument that is being used. And I've always been told that the people who really need to be there would be there. And it was exactly what happened. And it became a trip not only of remembrance, but also of the deepest sense of understanding how much was lost to humanity, of the pure teachings, the teachings that were there for all ages, which were uncorrupted at the time, and then tapping into them again, and also going on to this deeper journey within self, because your soul has been there, and then to connect to that part of your soul. And the most tragic part was when we got to Eleusis, which was there were three mystery schools in ancient Greece. And Eleusis was the most famous of them all, but also one of the most profoundest, because you must remember, when you got into a mystery school, you had the ones that needed to go through all the initiations to get to certain ranks, and then another initiation, so on. So the top rank had more information into the secrets than the ones that were like the beginners. And of course, if you did not pass through the initiations, you didn't go anywhere. You were sort of like left in the lower ranks. When we got there, I've never seen a place that was so devastated as that. It was the most devastation that I've ever come across in my life. And it looked as if a massive explosion happened there. And as I was tapping into what it looked like before, it was a vibrant, alive place with a lot of waterfalls and fountains. And now it's like a forlorn. There's nothing left there. There's like, it was the most painful experience I've ever had. I just sat down on a rock and we meditated, and I said, we need to clear this, but I don't know what to clear here. It's like I can't tap into it because the pain and the trauma was so great. And then we went back again, and then it came out that somebody wanted to conquer that, like the conquerors moved in, and they literally were taking the children, and they were killing the children in front of the adults. And this whole school was, and then they killed the adults. And this whole light was like snapped out in an instant and then blown up. So there was, and what was even more, it was like poisonous. It was something that poisoned the landscape, and it poisoned the whole thing. And this whole teachings that were there were sort of like slapped down, and it never ever came back to humankind again in that way, in that powerful way. Because you must remember, the whole of the Greek philosophy, the whole of the Greek civilization actually came from these mystery schools in a very deep level. To me, that is the tragedy of humankind, that we always had this moment of enlightenment, and then it would literally be snapped out like booms, somebody would trip on it. And we have been through so many lifetimes, a lot of us, where we were persecuted because of whatever we held. To me, then, going to Delphi itself was like, oh, I'm a homecoming in the deepest sense. It was like I knew every mountain and every tree and every rock. And we had a most beautiful experience there, because it's right up in the mountains, because it's like the Alps, the snow falls there in winter, and it's ski resorts there. And we as we climbed up, there's an amphitheater, and I just knew we need to go a bit higher. And interestingly, in Greece, what came through me was ancient Greece was being transmitted through me. I can't speak a word of Greek, but ancient Greek was being transmitted through me, and you know what? The ancient chants of these mystery schools, in a way that I cannot explain, but every place had their own sort of chant that came through me. And I had an opera singer with the group, And we were singing, standing over this amphitheater, looking down on the whole scene where the Apollo temple and everything was. And we sang the place alive again through the chanting. And he amplified that with his voice, because opera singers have got strong voices. And everybody got silent. The whole place was silent, and everybody was looking up. And in that moment, I saw how in ancient times they used to chant, early morning and midday and night and evening. And they would have two choirs, one standing on this side and the other one on the other side of the other mountain, like an amphitheater, natural one. And they would answer each other. And, I got tears in my eyes, because I thought to myself, can you imagine that moment when you hear songs like this echoing through this whole natural amphitheater and amplified by the natural sound that it makes and the spiraling energy that is there? And you can imagine that you would actually experience a lot of heaven there. And that is why the oracle was there, because it was so sacred. So Greece was basically a going back into the core of our soul, as what we have when we were still open with the heart, when our heart was still opened. Because the teaching always tells you all truth is within, all that is divine is within. Go within and you will find the truth. You cannot find it in your mind, because your mind can only go this way, but you can find it in your heart. If your heart is open, you will have access to your soul, and your soul is connected to your soul group and the oversoul and the whole greater whole. And that is basically what in Delphi, there were huge signs that said, know thyself. That is the greatest of all things. You need to know yourself at the deepest level, because all truth is within yourself. It's not outside yourself. And your connection to everything and all that is within you. It's not outside of you.
Yeah, that tends to make it real simple, doesn't it? Some of this, and of course, I spend my days talking to people about ascension and everything. But yeah, it really is. This isn't something new. This is has been around forever. I wanted to ask you about something. I don't know why this came in yesterday. Maybe it has something to do with you. I don't know, or doing a show today with you. But yesterday, I spent the day by myself, just working and doing shows or whatever. And all day long, I kept getting, and I'll just give you the bits and pieces. Something with like the at a minimum, the Pleiadians. Maybe there was some other star family involvement. And from the Pleiades, it went to early civilization, like the Essenes, to the Cathars, the Templars. There was, it looked like to me, northern Italy, France, a lot of the Middle East, and it was just like a story or something. And it included the Celtic, it included the Druids. Where else? What else was in it? The Gnostics. The Dead Sea Scrolls, Nag Hammadi, that type of stuff. Almost like there was a message coming through that whatever was being carried by those groups and being transferred and passed on was becoming more available. Does that make any sense to you? Can you shed any
Yes,
light on that?
that is my whole journey. That was my whole journey.
Okay.
Egypt, especially to me, was a great initiation, because I was challenged in Egypt like I've never been in my life before.
Really? What do you mean on
Because
the trip? On the trip you were?
on the trip, not only the trip, but also because of what I was accessing, you understand,
Mm-hmm.
because Egypt is where mankind was shut down in a great way.
Okay.
That's Egypt. And so I was dealing with multiple dimensions and multiple levels of what has been shut down, because you must remember I said 7 mystery schools, so they were all interconnected. And these places that you experienced, they were actually in Egypt. I had to open up a massive portal, and that portal was the portal of the sun gates. And the sun gates are what actually holds the information at a very deep level. But it's also that of the codes, the illumination of mankind at a very deep level. And what you say about these groups, yes, it's all interconnected. That is what my France books give you, all the connections between the Cathars and the Templars, because they were one and the same. You know, they were same families that held that region, that held that information of that, and actually were like, they were like the guardians and keepers of that, if you
Yeah.
could bring it. And then of course you see the Pope wanted, he declared the crusade against
Yeah.
against them. And the Cathars themselves were pure. They were called the pure ones because they led lives of purity. They knew about the flyers of illumination, and they had the gospel of love. And when in my France book, you will see that I write about the gospel of love, which had 144,000 volumes. That's been lost to humankind.
Wow.
But it's going to bring back, I've been told that in the next few years this will be brought back to humankind. And it's all about the application of purity. If you are really called in the highest degrees, you will find that you will go through the fires of purification, and you will put through initiations in the inner planes, so that all which no longer serves your higher soul growth and good will be transmuted in, and it will be removed from you. That
Yeah.
is
Would you?
why when you are called onto the path, you will be on that path,
Yeah.
and nothing else can take you off that path, because you will constantly be reminded that your calling is there.
Yeah. Even in the human experience.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
that's just one more quick comment and one question. We'll move on to something else. But yeah, that whole Cathar story is, well, the whole all the stories are incredible, and why they're coming up, and it can't just be for me, or maybe it's for the show, I don't know. But there's that one story where they pretty much wiped them out. They had them under siege, and they put them into a, like a corral or a barn or something, like 300 women, men, and children, and then they set it on fire. And there are accounts that there was not one sound that came out of that barn, that they
Mm.
were so pure that they, I guess, protected or whatever, but there was no sound of pain, no anything. And that's that, to me, that speaks a lot to the energy that they were carrying.
Yes.
Now, one quick question on the mystery schools. I'm just curious. Do you have
Yeah,
any
yeah.
idea, where did that information come from? Who, or where did it come from? Did it come from the star family, like Pleiadians?
Yes.
Okay.
And in my Egypt seminars, I went very deeply into that. We have so much connection. Remember that the Lion Kingdom, remember that I said at the beginning
Hmm.
there was Elysium. And then when the wars of heaven broke out, that was when everybody went haywire, because some galaxies were blown up, because we were created, when you reach a certain level of evolution, you become a co-creator with the divine. So
Yes.
the planet then was like colonized or civilized at that stage by the 12 master galaxies. They were
Okay.
the first galaxies that were created by the divine. And they
Okay.
were still very pure. They were pure. They were lived within the divine laws. And if you live within the divine laws, you bring unity and oneness into being. But then the wars of heaven broke out. I go very deeply into my Africa book about that, if you want to read about it. But then the Lion Kingdom was established by the Lyrans. Now the Lyrans came from Lyra, but the galaxy was nearly half blown away. So they had nowhere to go to, and they fled to Sirius. And then when the planet was back into orbit, and it was sort of like, okay, they asked if they can please start a civilization again on planet Earth, on the remains of what remained of Elysium. Okay.
Mm.
And they started that civilization with those of Sirius and the Pleiades, because the Pleiades were always involved from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The Pleiadians also hold the temples of light, and they hold the light codes, and they hold the light language. That's the Pleiadians. And you will find that all over the world, in all the native traditions, They will always speak about the Pleiades.
Yeah.
They will speak about Sirius. They'll speak about Orion. They'll speak about Arcturus. They will speak about the Bear constellation. They will, and there are a few others. But the thing is, of those 12 master galaxies,
Mm-hmm.
a lot were blown up. Okay, they were completely destroyed, and but with Egypt especially, and with the world now, you've got to remember that the Sirius holds the intergalactic councils.
Yeah.
They hold the intergalactic councils, and they hold the universal knowledge. So the universities of knowledge, of technology, and all knowing is in Sirius.
Yeah.
And it was from Sirius that was established on Earth. And
Yeah.
Osiris and Isis came actually from Sirius. And
Mm.
they started they were actually the first rulers of the Lion Kingdom as such. And I go into the fact that they started the mystery schools when
Okay.
they saw that something would happen, because at that stage they knew that civil war would break out or
Okay.
whatever. And so they started to bring the knowledge from Sirius into pockets of light around the planet, if I could put it that way.
Yeah, it's and this falls in line with some other intel I've heard, like including Franco Di Nicola, who talks about we have 12. We were seeded by 12 races or
Yeah.
12 different star families. It almost sounds like, from what you're telling me, that Earth was not just a seeding of the Earth, but almost like a reseeding of the galaxies that were partially destroyed. Yeah,
Yes.
that's really interesting. And another thing that happened too, you just reminded me of it, as I was watching this chronology all day long. It went from Europe. It went it went from like the Middle East to France, Italy, in all that era, the United Kingdom, and then all of a sudden it shifted to North America, and it was like Native American, and then it kind of went to contemporary, and I don't remember all the details, but I'm sure that energy was landing here or expanding for a reason, or at least signifying something. Last night I watched a show, and I would highly recommend Greg Prescott's channel N5D. He does some broadcasting almost every night for 2-3 hours. And last night he had on, just by coincidence, of course there's not any, he had on a lady by the name of Tiffany Kiefer here in Florida, who actually is going to be on this show in about 2 hours. I just met her like a week ago. Somebody recommended
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
But she started talking about divine union. She spent about an hour talking about divine union, or what people call twin flames. And it was probably the best intel I've heard, the best account I've heard recently. I know you've been writing about it for years, and many other people have, but it was really, really on point. It was very, very much, it was very real in terms of what it's like to be in that relationship, what it means, and so on and so on. What's your take on these couples at this point? There seems to be more and more of them coming to the surface, bringing this energy of divine love. And as she said last night, and as I've heard Morgan say many times, the purpose is to bring that frequency and anchor it into the earth. But have you picked up anything in your communions recently on where the divine couples are, what that part of the program is in place with that template?
Yes, but you must remember, with humanity, you always have free will and choice. To me, that was my experience. That you can try as much as you can if to walk a path with somebody. Even your twin flame. But if they do not wish to walk that path with you, then there's nothing you can do about it. And
Mm,
that you also got to remember. So yes, there is that awakening in a deeper sense. But I mean, I do twin flame readings about every day, and you must remember that all the old karma, all the old patterns, and in these last few months, this have really been coming up at a very, very deep degree.
mm-hmm,
All those negative karma that you picked up for all the lifetimes. So just remember, we were all challenged along the way, and we have all things. We're not angels, and we all have got our shadow
mm-hmm.
and our light sides. And in some lifetimes, we were not angels, all of us, and I include myself.
Me too.
I just had a past life recall a few weeks ago, which finally understood something that I've never could understand when I was writing my France book, because I could never climb up to Montsegur. I always was like halfway when I wasn't allowed to go up. And finally the memory was accessed. And when I saw that memory, I suddenly realized why, when I saw this person in this lifetime, something triggered in me. And it was fear. And I didn't know why it was fear. And suddenly that memory bank clicked. I had to dig very deep inside myself to actually access that and go through it and see what happened there, and then release it and forgive it and let it go. So you must remember that we have this path where we do unite with our twin. But if a twin is not on the same wavelength as we are and not on the same path, there is just nothing they can do about it. So I feel it is a beautiful togetherness that's coming, yes, on many levels. And there's a beautiful way that we can merge now. But I tell you now, that we are moving into a higher type of relationship now with so much higher love. So if a twin refuses to actually do the work, a soulmate will step in. And that's the beauty. Because
Yeah.
if the plan needs to go ahead, and the cosmic councils will do this. So if a twin does not want to do it, then be open for its soulmate to step in and fulfill that role. Because and whatever void there is left in the universe will always be filled by those by the divine. And I have seen this so many times. And to me, it's a beautiful heart opening at a very high level. And suddenly we find that love now transforms into transcendental kind of love. And, we can now have that hero's garments. We can have that unity, the sacred flames opening up at a much higher degree. Because as we shift into higher levels of consciousness, and we go into higher dimensions, then that is opening up to a higher degree. And so it will be more profound, it will be, but you need to have a purity again to go into really sacredness in a highest degree.
Yeah. Yeah. She talked a lot about karma. She talked about different scenarios, people she works with, and how sometimes, the twin wasn't ready. And she talked about soulmates as well, but she talked about the karmic part has to be completed, or at least has to continue to be, released, because I guess it
Yeah.
never ends. I don't know if it ends or, or what happens, but
No,
yeah, it
you
was.
come to you come to a place where you have resolved the karma with that person.
Mm.
And it's
Oh,
funny
with that.
when you with that soul. And it's funny when you get to that stage, you just find this, okay, I've done what I had to do. I've done up to a point where it is healed, you know. And up to this moment, I cannot walk that path for that person. You
Hmm.
understand? That soul needs to master their own lessons.
Hmm.
But as I said, in that moment, you find wholeness within yourself. That's the greatest of all blessings. And
Yeah.
then you attract that soul that comes into your life now to create that wholeness in a higher degree. So it's just a matter of a different form of way. And to me, that expands now, because remember, the soul is part of a soul group. So then the soul group actually steps in to fill that part. It's actually beautiful. To me, it's the whole way that creation works, because you must remember, in the greater sort of energy fields, nothing is ever missing. So if this one doesn't want to go that way, then another one will come and step in and say, okay, now I take on that because in the path of enlightenment, you will always attract light. So in other words, if this one moves there, that one, somebody will come and fill it and will bring in the beautiful balance there. And it's a
Have you?
beautiful heart opening.
Yes. Well, I think the whole trip isn't it? You can either go kicking or screaming, or try to flow into it. Have you, in your work, have you heard, through your work with couples? I mean, have you heard of, it- you know, um, of them experiencing higher degrees of sacred sexuality, sacred union, expansion, dimensional experiences, and stuff like that? Is that something that's going to be coming more online now?
I think as people, the thing is I'm very careful of with the twin flame, and I'm always trying to sort of like make people more aware, is not to buy into a hype, and expect things,
Yes.
because if you put false expectations on your relationship, you're putting too much stress on it. You understand? To me, it needs to come naturally. It needs to come
Mm-hmm.
in a beautiful way, so that but both are open to it. I have always felt that the minute that you are both in a higher state of love and pure love, and you are in a state where you are totally beautiful in balance, that merging will come on its own.
Yeah. Again
And
and
it,
again.
it will it will be a it
Yeah.
will be a blessing that is given by the divine. You understand?
Yeah.
It's not something you can work for or demand. it's
No.
it's something that comes as a blessing. It comes as a natural outflow. It's like something that is given to you in a greater degree. And that is when in that moment when this happens, suddenly you reach that transcendental state. You cannot always explain how it happens,
No.
but sometimes you are just in a higher state. You know it
Mm.
for yourself. You are in the state of gratitude. You're in a state of equilibrium. You're in a state of balance. And then when union occurs, you are already in a higher frequency. Okay, so the frequency there shifts, and then it can shift into a higher state even then. And I believe that as we walk the path of illumination deep within us, and we really work through that karma, and we reach a greater deal of wholeness in ourselves, we will find that wholeness within the relationship. It
Mm-hmm.
cannot be any other. And that's the blessing. That's the
Mm-hmm.
blessing when we finally understand that we don't own anybody. We cannot control anybody. We cannot change anybody. We can just love them as they are. That is the greatest gift we
Yeah,
can give
if we were
anyone.
given free will, how can we not give it to anyone else? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, I get that. And Morgan often says organic, because you're right about, you know, these relationships as they move to a higher level, it's new territory. It's not like the old type of love paradigms and templates or whatever you programs or whatever you want to call it. And it takes a couple of steps up, and you kind of like let it let it marinate in you and get used to it and integrate it. And but it's interesting because what she was talking about was that kind of nuts and bolts. How does this work? What have I observed in other couples? I mean, it's real, and it is. You're right. It's organic. You can't force it. um, there's
Yeah.
uh, there's quite a bit of seemingly I guess I want to say false flag frequency energy floating around out there. Seems to be really testing the community. Separation is separation. There's no middle ground. The 0 point is the zero is the middle ground, which contains both polarities. Does that surprise you that the that type of frequency, the propaganda, negative frequency, fear-based programming, is affecting the community as it is, or is it? I guess in the end, it's all divinely orchestrated. But what are your
Yes,
thoughts on that?
because ego comes in. Ego. Ego, ego has got its positive side. It's also got its negative side.
Mm-hmm.
That is why I always bring brought back to non-ego. You can take no credit. You can take no blame. You cannot. You have to stay in that middle path. And that is why with the mystery schools they put you through initiations, because you had to reach the state of purity where you will not be moved by one side or the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You will walk that path relentlessly. In Egypt, this has come to up for the whole group time and again. And as I said, I was tested in Egypt in the greatest way because of what I had to release there. And that was the total, where the unity became separation, you know. So and again, I said to them, if you are called on this path, you need to walk the path relentlessly.
Yeah.
That does not mean that you will not be challenged. You know, a lot of people don't want the challenges, but the challenges actually bring you always back to the core truth. If you do not want to live the truth, that path is not for you. And I
Yeah.
talk about myself. I get challenged and I always have to get back to my core and the truth within me. I cannot go and do the work if I am not willing to walk the path. I cannot tell you how to go and do it if I'm not. But a lot of
Yeah.
people don't want to do that. You know, and the thing is also, the longer you start in the group, the egos come in because the one gets jealous of the other one, and the one do this, and the one thinks I'm slighted, and the other one feels they left out. And because of ego, once you start understanding that you need to walk that path, you need to walk on yourself first of all, to keep your path pure before you can point fingers at anybody else, or you can try and because that's when disruptive energies come in,
Hmm.
because not everybody is as committed, not everybody is as focused and as attentive as that. But to me, it's a path that people need to walk. And how committed are you to the path?
Yeah.
um, it's how committed are you to the path, because that path will, you know, to me it's uh, um, you know, uh, it's not that unity is not attainable. Yes, it is. Okay, but how committed are you to find the unity within yourself, and then in a whole other expansion,
Yeah.
and live it?
Absolutely. Yeah, those challenges are the fire. Maybe Earth is just one big mystery school now. Maybe we all this stuff that we've been through has created an atmosphere of, a collective, or at least the availability of a collective mystery school, or I should say schools, because I'm sure there's plenty of
Yeah, yeah,
temples
yeah,
within
yeah.
that school. Hey, a lot of people too been talking about, or were the first part of February, maybe through February, about Atlantis. Atlantis seemed to be coming up a lot, and the technology of Atlantis. I had one person describe it as we had basically arrived to the point energetically of where we were at Atlantis, and then of course, the collective egoic took over. What are your thoughts on why Atlantis would be popping up now, and if it means anything to you?
Because of a clearing that I did in Egypt.
Yeah,
Going to,
that's thank you very much.
yeah, yeah. But
Let-
it's coming up because you know what happened is we had the unity in the seventh dimensional. That was all the others were, but we always reached a space where we had the unity, and then, as you say, booms, it goes and we destroy. Okay, it
Mm,
happened to all the civilizations. It happened to Lemuria, Mu too. It's exactly the same. But it was the Atlanteans that caused the destruction of Lemuria.
mm,
That is where we enslaved them. But the thing is with Atlantis, what happened is that they closed their hearts. Okay, they closed their hearts, and they went totally in their minds, and they started to create the most destructive methods of destruction. Plus,
mm.
they controlled everybody with control boxes. So the lesson of Atlantis is, now, if you go too much in your heart, what do? You can create, and if you still separate yourself from the divine and from the divine laws, and you think that you are the God in yourself, and you can just do what you like without needing to adhere to the greater whole, then is what is what they nearly blew up the earth. The intergalactic councils had to step in and actually prevent the earth from being blown up, because during the wars of heaven, they vowed that no planet will ever be allowed to blow itself up again,
Yeah.
like the planet between Jupiter and Mars did. And that is what brought such terrible chaos in our solar system and throughout the whole. That's why the asteroid belt is still there.
Mm,
So they actually intervened and they said, no ways are you doing this. And what happened was the great flood. So the flood was right, literally wiped out that civilization. But you must remember now, all the souls involved with Atlantis have been reborn again.
yeah.
Okay. And so the lessons they need to master is again the lesson of wholeness,
Mm,
bringing the mind and the heart into balance, opening the heart and understanding that your heart is connected to the soul, is greater than the mind. It's not because you don't use your mind, but now your mind and your heart are in total balance. It's equilibrium. This is the age of equilibrium, to get back into balance between the shadow and the light. So the collective lessons here need to be mastered. It's the karmic lessons that need to be mastered. It's going through, and actually also for forgiveness that needs to come in with this whole thing, because those that held the light eventually we're holding pockets of light all over the world, and as the world was then destroyed, they were the ones that actually came back, and they brought civilization to humanity, because they hold the light. And I call them the ancient ones, because the ancient ones are still there. They are just in a different dimension, and they are the guardians and keepers of the earth. They literally and help us to remember, and also to work with us now to a higher degree, so that we can make the transition now. Imagine now, for the first time, instead of descending, we are ascending. And that is the beauty of it. But as you ascend, you start spinning, at a much higher frequency. So all of this of Atlantis now has to be spun out. It's got to be spun out of our consciousness. It's got to be spun out of our karma and our all thing, so that we can rise again to the seventh dimensional state. And it's going to accelerate. It's already accelerating. In the next few months, these energies are going to push us. They're going to push us. In 2021, we've got a harmonic conversion again. In 2034, this has got to be finished now that we step into the seventh. People are just going to leave the planet. They're going to exit the planet, because they cannot hold the higher frequencies anymore. People are just not, they're going to not, there's some life forms that are not going to be able to sustain life anymore. But it's part of that evolutionary change now as you move into the higher dimension. It's nothing to fear, it's something to embrace, and to know that you need to do the inner work. You cannot go past that anymore. To me, it's the most amazing time that we live in.
Absolutely. I mean, it's nothing short of having the opportunity, in a very powerful opportunity to do what we do, which is transform. I mean, transformation is, using the whatever energy is there and transforming it from the center of the universe yourself, and creating a better everything, life, world, universe. I mean, here's a quote. Thank you, Samantha. And just to finish up on Atlantis. Uh, this is from Sandra Walter. There are golden race codes that have been dormant since before Atlantis, now available to embodiers, according to Sandra Walter. Is that part of it too, do you think? I mean, we look at Atlantis or some of the other previous civilizations where we lived, and it's easy for us to look at what went wrong. But to your point, there was light there. There were stargates available, or information and code available that maybe was shut down for a while, whether it be Atlantis or another civilization previous to our incarnation here. Do you think that that's part of what's happening as we get into 2020, that more and more of our past of codes that were shut down are now available?
Yes, that is what my seminars in Sedona and in Shasta are all about, the keys and codes of illumination. When I was in Egypt, I was opening up a massive stargate there, and also the sun discs. Now, the sun discs hold are what are those keys and codes of illumination. I won't go into detail about it. You need to come to
I remember the sun disk very well. I saw the sun disk the first time I ever met you, and I cried for an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's right. And I will talk about that in Sedona and also in Shasta, and they are being activated now. And they hold certain degree of keys and codes, or illumination, or whatever else. And they are like giant energy machines, if you want it, for lack of words. I don't know what to call it. And they are being reactivated again in the highest degrees. And in my seminars, I will activate these within people. Well, I won't do
Oh,
it.
wow.
It will be done through me. And they are the keys and codes within a greater level, universal level. We are now returning to universal level. We are turning to our cosmic citizenship. We are remembering who we are, and the truth about who we are as a human race. So in this now, the Pleiadians, for instance, and they are holding the memory banks at light level and at cellular level. Okay. They were the ones that, the San people, the Bushman people of South Africa, they speak about the Pleiadians as being their creator gods.
Yeah.
You listen to Native Americans, they tell you they come from the Pleiades. Listen to what these Native people are telling you. They have this for generations in their oral traditions. It is brought over from generation to generation to generation. And, in the African tradition, they were not even allowed to change one word in that oral tradition. The same with the Druids. They never wrote anything down because they didn't know to, they didn't need to. They stored it in energy fields. Okay.
Isn't that amazing?
But they also, their bardic tradition, the Druidic bardic tradition had the tradition of ballads and things where they told the story of creation, and it went in every single word that they said. You were not allowed to change one word when language was given to humankind. And this is an oral tradition that is in many of the ancient native tribes. And the the Credo Mutwa, there's the South African High Shanusi of the African people. He says it's so beautiful in his book, In Daba, My Children. He says, "You gentlemen of the science, you come to our land and our way, and you tell us what happened here. You do not listen to what we tell you. You tell us what happened here." You see? And that's where the whole of the archaeology and things do not listen to what the native people tell them. And read in the roots of your stories are the truth. Every single myth has got a grain of truth in it. We need to go back and listen to what has been said there. So the Pleiadians are busy pouring in certain cellular level changes now. They are building our light body with those of Sirius. So we are busy getting a higher light body. We are getting a higher crystalline body. We are busy being changed at the highest degree because a new human race is being born. So with a new race being born, we got to now start being activated at the higher level. And that is why these keys and codes are now being activated so that we can now our codes of remembering comes back, the codes of illumination come back, and it is given. It is right here now for those who are ready. So for those who are open and ready, you will be given that. But you must remember that your life will change. And a lot of people, they have that given to them, but now fear comes in. Oh, I can't go there, Oh, my life will change. Oh, I will lose somebody. So they cling onto it. And like the Buddhist, and everybody teaches you, do not attach.
Yeah.
Don't attach to any person, to any place, to anything. Because the more you attach, the more fear comes in to lose it. So let go and allow the divine to work through you. And you will remember that nothing is ever lost.
That's right. Don't become
Nothing is ever
attached
lost.
because you are attached, because everything is
Yeah.
attached.
Yeah.
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 Now, 2020, God, there's, obviously so much has happened, like even more than it, at a faster rate, at a bigger volume than 2019, which was huge. 2018 was huge. It's all accelerating. What are your thoughts? I mean, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to be right about anything. I think we're doing a heck of a job. I think we've done a great job. I think we've come through a lot. We've come all this way, and it's kind of like right in our face. It's kind of like, to me, it time to just do what you said, which is basically follow the guidance. If you're told to go here, you go there. You don't always know why. I mean, one thing I wonder about is like Morgan and I, traversing 21 states since August and having these impressions and intuits that, we're doing grid work, for instance. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
understand it all. I mean, are we flipping switches as we walk, as we drive by? I mean, but is
yeah,
there? That's really seems to me where we've come. The point we've come to is that there's either the way we were or the way we are, and and it's almost like the universe isn't gonna have a discussion anymore about it. You're just we just you follow it, and if not, and like somebody had said on the show a couple days ago, in our present state, physically, biologically, whatever, we won't be able to live in this body in 5 years because the whole
yeah, yeah,
atmosphere
yeah.
is changing.
Mm, mm,
And
mm,
this
mm,
is
mm.
part of the reason that we're having to clear all the things that we're clearing. But anyway, where do you think we stand as a collective race? How have we done? And what do you think's going to happen? I know we can't hold anybody anything, but just a couple examples of what the possibilities are by the end of the year.
But I'm finding that it's changing very rapidly, and I find that the young people are really starting to get their voice. They are a completely different generations.
Mm-hmm.
Some, I've got one that I always go to for sort of have incredible conversations with this man. He's so deep and he sees things in a perspective that just says, wow, you can see this one has got mastery and evolution in his soul, that few humans have, that even are 60 years old now, you understand. I've these young ones are not afraid to go and change the status quo, and that's exactly why they were born. That's why they were incarnated. And you watch these new children that are being born, they are their old age. They've got the different strand of DNA. They already have got the new body. They are going to, this is
Mm-hmm.
unstoppable. It's there. It's
Yeah.
now coming to a full, and you get on that bus or you get off it. One of the two. And it's transformation to the highest degree. When I see how my life has changed in the last few years, I mean, I can hardly recognize myself anymore. And I literally had to let go of everything that I ever had. It was fun, but it just a new life has sprung from it. And this in the new year, I knew that the new life was again happening. So it's like we're stepping from one life into another, into another, into another, and with each one we are being reprogrammed for the next one. So it's
Mm.
going up that spiral, and every time you get up the spiral, you hit like a plateau, and then you sort of like go around, and you need to gain momentum to hit that so you can break through to the next level. So this year is one of those years where we need to gain momentum, and it's really going to spin out everything which is not valid anymore, which is not
Mm-hmm.
fun. You will find that structures will everything that we think is structured will start to disintegrate, because
Yeah.
it has to. And newer forms has to come into being, newer ways of living, newer ways of handling. That's why everybody's becoming eco-conscious now, because they realize, oh my goodness, I've also got to not only look after myself, but I'm part of the earth as well. I'm part of the embodiment of the earth. I've got to look after the earth, because the earth holds all life and life being. Without the earth, I can't be. It's also becoming cosmic conscious, and to understand that I'm part of the cosmic whole. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
this little planet, that's isolated, and we are part of the whole galaxies and galactic systems. And the more we are open to communicate with the galactic councils, the more we realize we are but here for an eye wink in eternity. That is
Mm.
what we are here. And our souls, many of our souls have been prepared for this for lifetimes after lifetimes after lifetimes.
Yeah.
We've been through it all. Now we need to apply what we have learned, and we need to
Exactly.
be the leaders that bring humanity through this. That is why you are here and I am here. We are busy leading humanity through this whole thing. And that is what our calling is. And I thank you for following that calling.
Mm.
And as you are doing that grid work, you are busy working on the field of the whole. This is like I do. We be busy bringing the ancient beings in the ancient energy fields into being again. We are activating them. We are bringing that which was
Mm.
shut down into life again. So it's a total rebirth and a total renew on all fronts. I am so inspired by this that, so, sometimes I just get up and I say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Just say
the
thank you.
the
It's
gratitude, you mentioned that earlier, the gratitude's huge. I wanted to ask you, how do you start your day when you wake up? Do you
well,
go
what I
right
do every
into gratitude and prayer, or
No, I have my cleansing and clearing every single morning. It's a cosmic cleansing and clearing. I'm doing a higher healing webinar just now, a few hours time, where I bring this to humanity. I've always just done it
mm,
with my students, but I've been led, to really go and give it, to the greater, well, for those who signed up. I do it every day, and it's interesting. As I do it, I realize how many layers we've got to clear. Every time I think I've cleared now all the layers, the next layer come in. But we've got to do ancestral clearing, and remember that there's not just ancestral clearing. There's country clearing, because there's country karma, there's world karma. It's all this that needs to be cleared and cleared and cleared. And as you go in your daily life, you get into contact with other people, your energy fields and our energy fields are going to become more and more sensitive.
mm-hmm,
So it's very, very important to put protection around your bubbles of light to keep out the negative energies. If they put all these Wi-Fi's and all these electronic things are all jamming our energy fields, please teach the children to put bubbles of light around them, because these children are extra sensitive. Remember that these are the new children for the new world. They're already in a higher frequency band, and the jarring of the third D is there. Just be careful with that. Just
yeah,
be help them in this regard. And so I do that, and then I do my affirmations and then I get into a state of gratitude, because as soon as that is all cleansed and cleared, you are in a higher frequency band.
sure,
Now your whole transmitter channels are open, and you can connect to divine in a deep way, and then just say thank you.
yeah,
And the gratitude brings in, there are those moments when you're just so at one with everything that you have tears of gratitude running down your cheek, because you are at one. And to me, that just empowers you for the day. I cannot go into the day and do my readings, etc., without that, because
yeah,
my channels have got to be crystal clear. So just like you bath yourself and you wash yourself every day, you need to also get your energy fields cleared every day. To me, that's very, very important. It's
yes,
discipline. Eventually it becomes like brushing your teeth. You you
yeah.
you,
It's
you
like
just feel
second nature.
something is
Yeah,
wrong. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it can be you can ground to that in every moment. I mean, I've noticed too that my sensitivities have gone up over the last few months, and it's a whole bunch of different types of energies. It's it's telepathic. you know
Yeah, yeah.
whether a person's in front of me or somewhere else, and it's just a lot of information, like the information that came in yesterday. So it is changing things, and I was wondering yesterday. I thought, people had talked about at some point we're going to have full memory of all of our incarnations and of our whole story, our soul's lineage, and so on. And I hadn't really thought about it for a long time, but when that information came in yesterday, I thought, wow, I wonder if this is going to continue. Like, because to think about going through life in this expansion from the human to the divine human, if you will, to have that information would give us a totally different perspective in a lot of different ways. Do you think we'll actually see that happen?
Yes, yes, it is. It's coming. That's the new golden age.
Mm,
The new golden age is already happening. It's like here now. That is why after the Second World War, the indigos started coming in, and then the crystal children and the rainbow children, the sun children now, because we needed to bring this evolution to the fore. You
mm,
understand? And we were volunteers. We said, okay, we're going to do it. I remember at one stage I asked them, what the heck am I doing on planet Earth again? And they said, I actually got the answer, and that made me think. They said, well, you didn't need to come back again, but we asked you. And then you said, okay, you'll come back again. And I said, why was it between?
yeah, I think I find like a funny meme like once a week, a funny one that'll a lady making a face, or making a gesture with her finger, her middle finger, saying, "This is my face," when they asked me to come back again. But yeah, I think we certainly chose to come. Oh, I was going to ask you something. It just slipped my mind. God, it was a good question too. This 3D memory, is keep slipping away more and more. Oh, I'll remember it in just a second. It's something that you do, but I can't remember. Oh, well, let me just ask you. So, when will you be in Sedona and Shasta?
Okay, I'll be in Sedona on the 30th of August until the 1st of September. And I'm doing the keys. And my seminars are called the Keys and Codes of Illumination, because that's what I'm being called to bring to America. In a great style. That's the keys and codes of a nation. Remember, we said that these keys and codes needs to be brought back now. So it's the awakening of the sacred keys and codes within the soul. The crystal pyramids, I talk about them, and the sun discs, the serpent mounts, the lightning rod, and the sacred energy. So what I do is I'm making people aware of these places. I'm making them aware of what lies in them, and within, and also in the context of America too, but America is far greater than a history of what people are aware of. But also I go into the soul, because as I do this, your soul remembers, your soul gets reactivated, and the central knowledge banks are opened up. My soul is there to open up keys and codes within people. That is why I'm here on the planet. And through my work, that is what's being activated within them. But I also will go into this whole thing about, soul and soul groups and the twin flames, and also the souls that have incarnated together time and time again to keep these pockets of knowledge, to keep the light going, to bring this to humanity. So this is a seventh dimensional awakening that will happen there in the highest degrees through my seminars and what I bring, and also do meditations and activations, etc. And then in Mount Shasta, sorry.
Okay, go ahead. That's what I was going to ask you. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then Mount Shasta is on the 26th to the 27th of September. It's a sacred awakening of a hidden keys and codes of illumination of a seventh dimensional state. The triple sun discs, the winged rainbow serpent, which is being returned to Earth, the rainbow tribes, and the pyramids, and the new golden age. And again, this goes at a very deep soul level, because I've had massive downloads about America already, about ancient America, more
Really?
ancient than the ancient of America.
The,
We go
the
back millions of years,
oh
and
yeah.
this is totally lost to humankind. And the America holds certain keys and codes within her, and what these seminars are about, to activate those again and bring them into the souls that are there, so that the souls can go into and have these keys and codes of illumination activated within them at a very deep soul level. Because when we were in Egypt, I activated a massive sun discs, as I said, in the portals there. And Egypt actually connects directly to America, as does Delphi and Greece. So these are all coming together. It's a continuation of what was activated there, and also in France, and in what I've already done here in Africa. So I'm being called to America in a greater degree to bring this as a gift. It's not my gift. I'm
Right.
an instrument. It's a
Yeah.
divine gift, because humanity now is being gifted with this at the highest level. I'm just an instrument. It's not about me. It's about what is being brought back to humanity. I'm just an instrument that is being used. As I say, if I'm being called to do something, I go and do it. Even if I don't always understand why, like you said. But if we are being called, as I say, then you go and do that. You become an instrument. And to me, it's highest service of a highest degree. But I would also love to meet all the people. America's my greatest followers are in America,
Is that
and
right?
I've given so many soul readings to people in America, and they've really supported me so well. And it's just my way also of thanking the American people, and of course all the other people over the world and over the globe. I thank you. I'd be very grateful if you all come to America, because I can't
Yeah.
wait to get there. I've always wanted to get there. And when I look at these pictures, I mean, wow, there's some beautiful places there and some amazing places.
Well, you're
I
going to be
can't
there a
wait.
while then. You're going to be there for at least
Yeah,
30
yeah. I'm
days.
going to
And
be there for quite a few weeks. I'm going to
yeah.
be traveling through America and going to see places there with a lot of my friends who I can take me through. So I'm very grateful that they're all coming with me, and it's going to be. I can't wait to get to Mount Shasta and also to Sedona. And I've been reading, I've been looking at videos and things, and also doing research. And every time I go there, I think myself, oh, I'd like to see this, I'd like to see that, I'd like to go there. But America is so big, I can't go everywhere. So
Well,
I need
it's a
to
good, you're
find,
going to
yeah.
a couple of really good places. Perhaps we'll see you there. I think we'll be back that way that part of the year. But yeah, there's that whole region with the four, what they call the four corners, which is where the Navajo, Hopi, Zuni, where that sacred place is in the Grand Canyon, where I don't remember what tribe it is, but where they say that the people came from the inner earth, and that they're the only ones allowed there. I mean, there's a lot of magic over there. We've driven through it a few times. We've had a lot of energetic experiences, diverse experiences. So yeah, it's a very powerful place. I mean, Shasta's powerful. We were there earlier this year. Sedona, I've been 4 times. That's an amazing place. I don't know. It seems to always bring me front and center and do some quick fast track clearing. So I always come out of it a little bit better than I was. But yeah, that's exciting. And the other thing that there's something to be said for is these gatherings. We've had a few little ones. I've been to a few conferences, and I was making these remarks a couple of days ago that in fact, when I really first got introduced to him was in Sedona, and the energy of the gatherings I've been to since then have gotten higher and higher in frequency, less of a patriarchal impression, you know, more of the feminine in the men and the women coming up, more men being represented. I was talking to Marie Batchelor a couple of days ago, and she was in Korea, and when she went over there, while she was there, the coronavirus broke out, which was big in Korea, the second biggest place other than China. So it was a really interesting story because she was with a group of people that she was working with, and they were having incredible activations and memories and skills and abilities being launched. I mean, as you can imagine. And it was so funny because she said we were just in our state of fellowship and then as soon as I left Korea, they banned travel or quarantined people, and as soon as she arrived in Australia, they banned it. So it's like she slipped right through it in that bubble that you're talking about. And on that note, I guess it gets down to because there is a lot of stuff. It can get a little complicated. Sometimes we do have to turn the mind off. There's so many different schools of thought and explanations, modalities, processes, but really, if we continue to work on ourselves, then we're really creating maybe a wider and more strengthened bubble,
Yes,
without necessarily going through specific actions and motions, but the number one action being, I guess, what, taking responsibility as a creator, not just of this earth but of the universe,
yes.
and then consciously applying ourselves to the best of our abilities moment by moment. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And as you call that bubble is going to push us through. I get a lot of people that get into terrible panic about this jolly flu. And there's nothing to panic about. You
Mm.
know, you understand? Because that's mass fear and that's mass hysteria. And then people actually get either they attract that to them. The law of attraction will
Yeah.
attract to you what you fear. So the minute that you actually realize, wow, if I do the inner work and I do what I need to do, I take, if you take vitamin C and vitamin D and selenium and zinc, and you take what's the other one? Um, the colonial silver, you're okay.
Mhm.
In the Middle Ages, they had all these pests, these people dying of something. And the
Plague.
ones
Yeah.
that survived took colonial silver. It's a very ancient remedy. So,
Wow.
there's, if you look at and you dose yourself, I was just listening to a doctor the other day, and he actually studies all these viruses. And he said high dosage of vitamin C and all these that I mentioned, they just help you in any case your body to cope. But if you are at a different C frequency, nothing can get to you at the highest level if you do not fear. But it's fear that attracts that to
Yeah.
what you fear you attract. And now if you amplify that with mass hysteria, you are causing this energy, that is
Exactly.
exactly, and it pulls everybody down into the 3D again and into the lower levels. Okay.
Wow.
That doesn't mean that you've got to be stupid about it and not take precautions. But you understand.
No, no,
But
you're right on.
because it's
You're
your
right on.
responsibility. It's your
Yeah.
responsibility. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, if we don't fear anything,
Yeah.
okay? Because if it's your time to leave the planet,
That's
you will
right.
leave the planet. And
That's right.
also, a lot of
Yeah.
souls will leave the planet because their time is done.
Yeah.
And I've always been told there will a mass exit of souls. So whether souls, go into an epidemic and they leave a planet, or they leave it through a catastrophe or
Yeah.
something, that was meant to be. At some
Yeah.
level, they agreed to it because it was their time to leave the planet. Nothing is ever just at random there. It's
Mm.
always divinely orchestrated. Nothing is just for
Yeah.
nothing. It's all for a higher reason. And once you start understanding that, you get stillness, you get quietness within, and you understand, wow, as long as I do the best in my life and I really walk my path with love and with wisdom and with all that I have, and I try to do it as best as I can, and within divine laws, I have nothing to fear.
Yeah. If it's
I
time
have
to
only
go, it's
so
time to
much
go.
to live.
Just get
Yeah,
ready for the next one.
yeah,
I mean, it's who knows? You might come right back. You might go somewhere else. I mean, we've been doing this since the beginning, and uh,
yes,
and so why would it change now? I mean, I mean, really, I do this. I love this what I do,
yes,
and I'm exposed to a lot of people, and but I always go back to the simple things. The gratitude. You can't argue with gratitude. If I feel
no,
off
no.
balance and I say, wait a minute, what am I complaining about? 2 years ago, I didn't have two nickels to rub together. Now I got three. But I mean, there's just so much stuff that I can look at. And then the other thing is, no matter what's said, there's, you know certain things. We all know inherently. We may not be able to explain it, but what I do know is all I have is this. All I have is this. I'm going to be Todd apparently one time, and I've got things that have been created in my life that are some are going, some are here, some are coming. And I can do my best to love every bit of that. One of the things I think that we're all having to get used to is breaking away, detaching, embodying that detachment when it comes to our family, to our close family, to our extended family, to our old friends. Is that something you had to deal with, and is that something that your clients have had to deal with, and how do you approach that?
Yeah, I had to literally let go of everything. And you know what, I had to go let go of the last in the last few 3 months.
Oh,
I've
really?
I'm learning to and also, I mean, I'm learning now that one is always taken care of.
Yeah.
One is always surrounded by beings of light. One is never ever alone. One is always, as soon as you walk that path, you will walk that path and be cared for in a beautiful way. And if you ask for help, it will always be there for you in whatever way you can. And that makes you grateful because you realize it doesn't matter. I've been through all of that. I've been carried through it. I will be carried through whatever comes life, whatever life throws at me, I'm okay. And you
Mm.
get grateful for it because God will always send you those souls onto your path who will assist you, who will be the ones that are on
Mm-hmm.
the same wavelength as you, the same path of you, who will love you and support you. And now it's the gathering of a soul families,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Where your
Yeah.
own family often can't understand you because you've outgrown them now. Since some, like I have, I've gone into a different level. It doesn't mean that I don't love them. I love them, I bless
Yeah.
them,
Of course.
but on the other hand, my soul family have stepped in, you
Yes.
understand. And and they and as you evolve, more and more of the soul family will happen. Your old friends will fall away, and the old things will fall away, and whatever does not serve your higher soul growth and good will fall away. Say thank you, you served me. Thank
Mm.
you. I thank you for the service you've given. I thank you for the lessons that you've given me. But here I am. I'm free now to walk in it. And this morning, I just had this sense of freedom. I thought of myself, wow, we can literally create a new earth. We can
Yeah.
create a new way of life. We can create the best life that we can live in all dimensions now if we truly wish this.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
can't go,
yeah. No.
say thank you
No.
and move on. And
Yeah.
I've been always told this vision lately of all the rainbow tribes. That's why I'm going back in Shasta here. The rainbow people, the rainbow tribes are gathering. And we will find each other, from all over the world. We're coming together and we're finding each
It's
other.
happening.
And we are the new golden age. We already are it. Isn't
It's
that a
happening. Yeah.
gift? Isn't that a
There's we're,
gift?
yeah.
Wow.
It's funny because when we got to the mainland in August, and we were going from one place to another, which was all laid out in front of us in present time. Nothing was planned, how that goes. But
Yeah.
and so we were seeing a lot of people move around, and Morgan kept saying, "Where are we all going?" Like, and at first I thought, but then as time goes on, I'm starting to see something is happening this year. Like I'm sure it wouldn't just be one gathering, but there seems to be. I mean, you're going to be in that part of the country. We've got some other friends that just came in from Europe that had gone to Brazil, and they're following the guidance, and now they're in Colorado, Utah area. I mean, there's something happening, or some things happening, and I think that's that going back to a lot to be said for these gatherings, because it's not even what's said, it's just the energy. Being in the same physical proximity seems to be bringing on huge surges, and like Marie was talking about, these people that went to that group meeting or session or whatever it was were having individual, astronomical levels of expansion. And I was just thinking about that in the context of this fear based programming with the virus, how they were actually holding it up. They were actually
Yeah.
there for a
Yeah.
reason. This was all set up, just like everything else has been set up. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's high time we take responsibility for everything, and uh,
Mm,
and
mm, mm.
it's a pretty simple proposition. We can do it moment by moment. We're still going to have little missteps here and there, but we just don't take it personal. Don't beat yourself up, and just keep moving. And maybe we'll run into you in August or September. You
Oh,
know,
I'd love to meet you there.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be a blast. That'd be a lot of fun. And there's a lot of cool people out there in Sedona and Shasta, and that's a good time of the year. It's nice and warm. So
Yeah.
I'm not interested in the snow. I don't know about you, but
Yeah, well, I'm not used to the cold. You must remember.
yeah, I would think so. As far
I mean,
south as you are. Yeah. Well, that's
yeah, yeah.
fantastic. It's always a pleasure. It's always synchronistic when we get together. There are no mistakes, no coincidences. But I just want to tell you thank you, and I love you very much. I love everybody out there, and thank you all for showing up and creating this expanding vortex that's just a mirror of the universe. We're adding frequencies to never expanding vibration, especially with beautiful vibrations like Judith Kusel. So, best to you always. Until the next time, and hopefully we'll see you this year in Sedona or Shasta or somewhere in between.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for inviting me back onto your soul. Your soul. your show. And I'm so blessed. Thank you very much. And bless everybody that's been here today. I love you and thank you so much. I'm blessed. Thank you. Thank you. And I bless you too. Thank you. And
Thank you.
bless you, Todd. Thank
All
you.
right. All blessings to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.